Hey, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're working on my 2009 Lamborghini Gallardo, doing a little bit of maintenance, doing an oil change. I've done one before and I'm almost done with this one, but I thought I'd stop and get the camera and just do a quick recap and walkthrough of how to do an oil change on one of these. Let's just start with the tools that are required. Don't really need anything really special. This one here I used for the oil canister that's on top. This is a 1 1/4 inch. I think it's really a 33 millimeter, but I don't have one of those, but this one fitted. So I used that to get the oil filter off. And then underneath, to get some of the drain points, you'll need a combination of a Torx bit set, a hex set, and socket set. The Torx bit I have is the T30, and that's for one of the drain points, but it also, you'll use that to get all these fasteners off. So these are what hold on this under tray. The under tray is basically the first part you need to get off the car in order to get access to all the drain points. So that's where all these fasteners come from. Nice to have a little power ratchet. I like this Milwaukee one, it's been really good. And let's see, this is a 5 millimeter hex, and this one is a 8 millimeter hex, 13 millimeter socket, and a 18 millimeter socket, and then a couple of ratchets. So that's that. As far as oil goes, lots of options out there. I like Mobile One. I've been using that for a really long time. This is the 5W30, and this actually has the what I'm looking for is a VW 504.00 spec. So I got that. I ordered a oil filter from my local Audi dealer. That's already installed, but this shares parts with the Audi R8, and so I was able to get an oil filter from them. And then I ordered some new washers and bolts from my local Lambo dealer in Austin. The reason why I wanted to get some new parts, you want to replace the washers, but also some of these drain bolts were kind of rounded out from the previous owner, previous oil changes, so those were almost about to get stuck on the car. So I replaced all of those. You can see how they've been rounded out. That's why it's important to use the right size bit. So if it's a Torx bit, use a Torx bit, and if it's a hex, use a hex. If you use the wrong one, you can damage your hardware like that. Then get you a nice drain pan to catch all your oil, and that's about it for parts and tools. So pretty straightforward, I think. So let's go up top and I'll show you where to start on the top. Okay, so here we are up top. Start with this part first. Here's where you're going to add your oil, and this is your dipstick to measure the oil. And then in between the throttle bodies, this is the oil canister, and that's where you'll use your socket, and you can undo the canister there. And then when you're reinstalling it, the torque spec is about 18.5 foot-pounds, or I think that's equivalent to 24 newton meters. So it's not a whole lot of torque. Basically, you're just wanting to engage the O-ring that's part of the canister. So that's about it for the top side. And let's go underneath and I'll show you the drain points. Okay, here we are under the car. Just to orientate you, this is the front of the engine here and the back of the vehicle. So we're going to start with drain point number 1 right here, and that's the one that uses the 13 millimeter socket like that. And then when you go to reinstall it, the torque spec is about 18 foot-pounds and has a washer to replace. Now as far as torque specs go, I tried to find some information online, but I couldn't find a whole lot of official stuff, but I found a forum that had some torque specs on it, so I'm using those. And but if you have different torque specs, you can leave those in the comments below, but these are what I saw on another user's Lambo, so we're going with that. So that's drain point number 1. So let me show you drain point number 2. Alright, so this is drain number 1, and then drain point number 2 is right here, and that's going to use your 8 millimeter hex. Goes right there. And this one's going to have a torque spec of about 33 foot-pounds. And so that's number 2. Okay, then drain point number 3 is right here. So here's number 1, 2, then 3, and that one I'm going to be using the 5mm hex, like that. And then the torque spec for this one is about 7.5 foot-pounds. And then from number 3, we'll come over here to the side, and you'll see number 4 right here. So that one's going to use the 5mm hex as well. And so for number 4, that one's going to be about 7.5 foot-pounds of torque. Okay. So let's go to number 5. Okay, so here is drain point number 5, and that was number 4. So we're just coming back a little bit. And this is going to use a T30 Torx bit, and the torque spec on this one is going to be 10 Newton meters. Okay, so pretty easy. So let's go to number 6. Okay, and then number 6 is here in front of the driver's side rear wheel, and this is for the oil cooler, and this is the one you'll use the 18mm socket on. And the torque spec for this one is about 16.5 foot-pounds. Okay. Okay, and then drain point number 7 is towards the back of the car here at the bottom of the oil sump tank, and this is where you'll use your 18mm socket to take that one off. And the torque spec when you reinstall that is going to be about 29 foot-pounds. Okay, so that's it for all 7 drain points. Okay, so just a quick recap. This is drain point number 1, and then drain point number 2, and then drain point number 3. Drain point number 4 is on the side here. Drain point number 5 is this one right here. And then up in the fender well was drain point number 6. And then the oil sump tank was drain point number 7. So those are all 7 drain points on a 2009 Gallardo. Okay, so now that we've got all the oil drained out, we've got our new oil filter in, we are ready to start adding oil to the vehicle. Now keep in mind this holds a capacity of about 10 quarts, but you may not have gotten all of that out, so you may not be adding a full 10 quarts in at this point in time. Now the owner's manual gives you instructions on how to check your oil, and the important thing is to always check it when it's been warmed up. So during my oil change, what I started with was by adding about 8 quarts of oil until I started getting a reading on the dipstick, and then I stopped adding oil and turned the car on, and I followed the instructions here. So basically you're going to idle the car until it warms up to this temperatures. You'll keep it at idle speed for about 2 minutes, then you'll turn it off and wait about 2 minutes, and then you'll check your oil level with the dipstick. So what I would do is add about a half a quart, and then I would repeat these steps until my oil level was at the correct level. So on the dipstick, it's going to have a fill zone and a do not fill. So that's where you're going to be checking your oil level with. The owner's manual also tells you that you can consume some oil during normal driving, so you'll want to check your oil periodically and top it off when needed. And the important thing is to always check your oil when it's been warmed up and not when it's cold. If you check the oil while it's cold, you could possibly have a false low reading and you could potentially overfill the vehicle. So you don't want to do that. So always check the oil level when the oil is warm. All right, so that pretty much wraps up this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. If you have any tips and tricks or comments, leave those in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.